I apologize for the 2-minute delay. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 6:03 now. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Welcome everyone for coming. I need an approval of the amended agenda for added discussion and executive session items. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. I do need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We have accolades. I don't know what they are.
Timberlake Middle Schools had a team for the regional Idaho Battle of the Books, who took second place this year.
Nice.
And I don't remember the name of the team, but
I
had
Fiction Addiction, I think.
so anyway, this was the best. Lots of schools participated. It's getting bigger, so a lot of excitement over reading.
Great.
So that's exciting.
That is exciting. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to mention, I didn't bring all the newspaper articles, but it was announced in the paper we had some young folks going to Boise State, down to Boise, which is, I'm a long time ago graduate of, and it's a great program, great opportunity for young people to get involved. And we also had some recognition for students and teachers recognized through the NISTAR program.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that out. Right, we will now move into public input. Do we have? It appears that there are
Oh,
7 people that want to speak with respect to the SRO position. I would recommend, since there are 7 of you, that you have a spokesperson that can speak for you. You would be then allotted 10 minutes instead of 3 minutes to state what you'd like to state to the board. When there are more than 2 or 3, we do ask that you have a spokesperson.
I thought it was 10.
Excuse me?
I thought it was 10 individual speakers.
No, actually, if it's more than a few people that are going to be speaking on the same topic, we ask that you choose a spokesperson. We give that person 10 minutes to speak for all the parties and express their concerns for what it is that you're all speaking in favor of or against.
If I may,
Yes?
I want to present to the board that I know that we represent many different perspectives on this issue, and so I don't know if that can be considered, that I don't believe that these comments will be too repetitive.
Okay.
If that's, I just want you to have that information.
Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. What would be the board's pleasure to listen to each one of these persons that are speaking with respect to the SRO program, or to have their spokesperson speak?
I'm prepared to listen to all of them. However, I would just say that if they start repeating the same information, we may ask you to discontinue.
I agree with Trustee
Okay.
Jones, yeah. And I think the confusion is in the policy when we're talking about groups. I think the policy says a group So if a group representation comes together, they need 10, but not in this instance. I think that's the confusion with the 10.
Oh, okay. Well, I do know that if there are multiple people speaking on the same topic, that was where I was going with that one. All right, so then we'll just go ahead and go through the list. First up will be Jake Massey. Please come to the podium and speak. State your name and address.
Thank you.
State your address.
Jake Massey, principal at Garwood Elementary School.
Thank you.
Board Chair Thompson and members of the board, I'm speaking on behalf of the parents, staff, and students I have the privilege of working for. I understand that tonight you'll hear from others about the SRO at Garwood, and I trust you know how beloved Deputy Clausen is to our community and how effective he is as a team member. I also understand there has been frustration from the board about misinformation concerning the SRO position. The reason why so many people are involved is because a decision was made to open a position for District Armed Safety Specialist and actively look for a replacement for our SROs without any knowledge of the patrons or staff. If there is any misinformation, I believe it could have been headed off with an open conversation about the budget concern, as this is why I'm told we are looking to replace our SROs. The only public information available was in the February board meeting minutes. February to May is plenty of time to speak to the situation and make people aware of what could potentially happen to a highly effective staff member in an outstanding safety program. It is both understandable and predictable that people are feeling caught off guard. Even as a principal in the district, I was unaware. After finding out on April 1st, I consulted Superintendent Arnold about the situation and learned that she was also in favor of working to keep the SROs. It was her recommendation that I email the board, which I did respectfully on April 2nd. For context, that email was sent to the board 1 full week prior to any community members participating in public conversation about the SRO situation. I realize the board has to consider many factors that go into the decisions you weigh in on as a trustee. You are accountable to many different groups, and often those groups have conflicting interests. I also understand that there are unpleasant realities that must be confronted when balancing the budget. That said, as leaders in our district, we must keep in mind the value of building and maintaining trust. The only way to do this is with transparency. And while we all have to make decisions based on the bottom line, we are not merely a business with a product. We are public servants, and the product of our organization is the future of our community. We must lead people and not merely numbers. And when we must address the numbers, clear is kind. We just ask that you tell us. Because in the absence of information, we are all left to interpret situations for ourselves. Moving forward, I hope to see transparency in these actions, as there is certainly accountability to our community. I sincerely hope that the MOU with Gooten County is approved, as this is best for Garwood students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Emily Marshall.
Hi, my name is Emily Marshall, and I am the PE teacher at Garwood Elementary School. Deputy Clausen is irreplaceable to the Garwood community and the Lakeland School District. At school, he provides a safe space for escalated students, which happens many times a day, every day. He's a positive light for young minds to associate with law enforcement growing up. This is so important that impressionable minds view actual law enforcement officers who are sworn in as humans who truly care about people and have admirable characteristics such as Brett's. My foster daughter has dealt with law enforcement her whole life, and after meeting Deputy Clausen, the thing that she stood out to me. She said it's the first officer that has smiled at her and made her feel comfortable to be around. That speaks volumes on how she now perceives law enforcement. He has made a permanent change in her brain. How many other kids have the same feeling? The students who come from trauma or negative police interactions. They need to see an SRO be a positive light to hopefully reverse some damaged thoughts about police. He has a direct line with what's going on with the sheriff's office. He is certified to arrest on site and not waiting for law enforcement to show up because he is the law enforcement. This speaks personally to me because my foster kid who has a no contact order with bio mom and dad and a prior history of them lying and kidnapping. Knowing that there is a trained SRO at schools brings me a peace of mind that they are always present and that they have proper and ongoing training, tools, weapons, and knowledge to handle situations like this appropriately, professionally, and correctly. Last year when there was a parent with a no contact order showing up to take their kid, I was instantly relieved that we had Deputy Clausen ready at the door. He has also coordinated many super beneficial programs for our students. In the past 2 years, he brought the K-9 unit for an assembly. Not only was this informational, but it was also a wonderful learning experience that will stick with the students. This summer, he took many weeks out of his busy schedule fulfilling trainings to bring back the DARE program for our 5th grade class. With the rise of drugs in our world and community, it was imperative that this program was brought back to life. He has hosted wonderful assembly for our 5th grade class. This not only gave a positive exposure to students, but also their families who attended. I am on the safety committee at Garwood, and we meet as a team monthly. All of us turn to him for his police brain, knowledge, training, and experiences. We flood him with what-if questions, and he has an ongoing background with police. His confident demeanor is always needed, not only in our safety meetings, but also in all of our drills. I think that it would be one of the biggest mistakes our district could make to replace our SROs. It is definitely not a good step in the wrong, it is the wrong step in the wrong direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Dave Balin.
I am Dave Balin. I am a member of the Bayview Athol community, kind of a new member, been there about 4 years. First of all, I just want to say thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'll be quick, I'm going to edit on the fly and get rid of half of my stuff. But also thank you so much for the difficult work that you're doing. It's hard work, these times are complicated, and I just really appreciate as a member of the community the work you're doing and the difficult decisions you have to make. Having said that, I'm here tonight to advocate as well for the renewing of the MOU with Kootenai County Sheriff's Office. Kind of my different perspective is, before coming to Idaho, in Montana, I was involved with youth justice for over 10 years. I was the chairman of the board of the Center for Restorative Youth Justice in Kalispell, where we advocated and supported restorative justice practices and procedures with high school and junior high schools, students in the school district there. I was vice chairman of the Youth Justice Council for the state of Montana, which is the, what do they call it, State Advisory Board, informing the governor's office regarding youth justice issues and practices and procedures in the state. And I also was a charter member of the School Justice Partnership for Flathead County in Montana as well, where we addressed issues of school to prison pipeline. So I kind of bring that perspective. And let's see, I'm going to edit really quick. So I guess my comments have to do with having the 2 SROs in place already. My first thoughts are that it's very difficult right now to find and hire someone who has those qualifications that are unique to being an SRO or an armed guard. It's very difficult to find either one of those. Hang on. So in regard to that, one of the main job descriptions in my thoughts of the SRO or the armed guard are to develop trust and rapport with the kids, with the students, which, by the way, the armed guards and the SROs we have are great at that, really good. The difficulty about removing the SROs at this point, not renewing the MOU, would be that all of the work that they've done so far to gain trust and to gain rapport with the kids would be lost. And that the new person coming in would have to overcome the obstacle of here's a young person perhaps at risk where another adult has disappointed them and they feel abandoned again. And so in comes another adult stepping in to take their place. It makes it even more difficult.
Dave, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
Oh, are they? Oh,
They
okay.
are.
I'm sorry. I had my timer, but I forgot to
It's
start it.
all good.
All right. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for
You
your
can always
information.
email your comments also to us.
Yes.
If you
Okay.
email them, that way we can finish reading what you have
Okay,
to say.
great. I'll do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next up is Christina Tempesta.
Tempesta.
Tempesta?
It's okay.
Okay, it looks like an N. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
On
I have
behalf-
funky handwriting and I
no,
get
no, no.
Tempesto, whatever.
Not a word.
So my name's Christina Tempesta. I'm a local psychotherapist in the area. Also, my husband was the one kind of organizing to raise the funds should we have to cover that privately. I'd like to address the board, and I'm writing this on his behalf. He's traveling for work right now, okay? So I'd like to address the board and the district regarding the potential removal of Deputy Clausen from the Garwood Elementary campus and replacing him with an armed guard. I believe this is a bad decision for several reasons. I've heard the main concern is that we could the potential cost could be between 7 and 10 grand. In the big picture, I'd ask you to consider the savings as penny wise and pound foolish. Safety for staff and students should be a top priority for this board and not an area to shave off a few dollars. It is clear that the qualifications listed on the job posting for armed guard pale in comparison to the qualifications that a law enforcement, especially an SRO, possess. I've personally spent many hours at the gun range training with police officers and indeed SROs, and I know firsthand how dramatically more effective and proficient they are tactically compared to 99% of people possessing an enhanced concealed weapons permit. The SROs train constantly and specifically for the school environment. They are supervised by law enforcement and not just school staff. My wife is a local psychotherapist who has also worked on school campuses for years, and from a mental health standpoint, we can confidently say that having an SRO on campuses not only provides the most adequate safety, but also consistency for these students, staff, parents, which is also very crucial. Deputy Clausen has provided and built relationships with these students whom this may be their only source of safety and connection. He continues to provide an excellent source of safety, community support, and vigilance for our school that is also out further than other local schools in regard to response time. The fact that there's a squad car front and center on campus is a major deterrent to potential threats. As I'm sure you are aware, I posted a Facebook group, Bradford Community News, that I'd like to raise enough pledges to offset the difference in cost of our SRO and armed guard. I'm also sure you're aware of the tremendous response that we have received in supporting and keeping the SRO on campus. At this point, we've secured $5,800 in pledged financial support from our generous community. I believe that between the district and the Garwood school budget, along with our pledges, the finances of the situation are no longer an issue. I'd also implore you to consider the fact that you're breaking the trust of the community if you remove the SRO after touting the SRO as part of the recent levy that we passed. Will you use the funds for the levy to pay for the SRO Garwood? If you won't do that, will you accept our pledges as the funding needing to secure this position for another year? As our constituents, we deserve and require an answer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Mariana Kemp.
Hello, my name is Mariana Kemp, and I am a parent. Dear Lakeland School District, Board of Trustees, and people within the Lakeland community, I come to you as an active member in our community in regards to the current situation and concerns of our SRO program. The board has stated at a recent board meeting that the SRO program is kaput for the next school year, and
That's not clear. We have not said that.
No.
okay, that it was up for
The majority of
discussion
this.
to
No.
end.
No.
Never. We never were looking to end,
So-
we never voted to end. Deputy
There was
Clausen is not
no
contracted.
conversation
No.
of a removal.
No,
No.
never.
There never
Never.
has been.
Okay. Well, then I will retract that statement. I do have a few concerns and questions that I would love to address. One of the reasons our levies was passed was with the base promise and knowledge that part of it funds our SRO programs. The board says that there was a potential shortfall in funding. However, we have reached almost full pledges for private funding. To make up the small amount of monetary difference that the board has stated that the funds are deficient in, thanks to a local CPA and CFO who has organized this as a viable option. Another local community member has spoken to Sheriff Norris himself and has stated that there is potential to keep our current SROs at their current schools after renewing a contract. The cause that there would be potential for losing our current SROs to new SROs anyway as a justification to change over to an armed guard now is, I feel, inaccurate. This I feel therefore puts the issue that the SROs were going to be traded out anyways, puts that out of the running as well, mental health. I cannot state the importance of consistency and safety and security for these students. These SROs are sometimes the only positive, fun, non-stressful, and safe interactions that they will have with law enforcement on a consistent daily basis, sometimes because of how chaotic their own home lives are, and to take that away or change and diminish the relationships that have been built over the past 5 years is preposterous. SRO placement. Part of the reason placement has been at Garwood and Timberlake is due to the excessive call time to real emergencies from first responders due to the rural setting. Funding already within a school district. I do have a valid question. I know that you guys can't answer the question here. Is it correct that there is a bus that operates during the week to take kids home from extracurricular practices, like from the high school? While I am all for sports, I believe in the positive mental health factors for them. I actually coach and teach local Lakeland youth myself. I do believe that sports are an extracurricular, not a necessity, versus the actual safety of our kids. And between insurance, hourly rate, gas to bus all of these children around after hours from their extracurriculars, it just seems interesting to me. I know that this has been going on for some years, but times do change, and maybe this is some small financial option that—
Mariana, I'm gonna need to stop. You're gonna need to stop. Your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Let me ask, are they not gonna email all of this to us?
Yeah.
Would you like that to happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if they have to stop, I would like to
Okay.
be able to address all the misinformation.
All right.
For finding-
Mariana, if you could email the board what you didn't get to fit, or everything that you were saying,
Yes.
so that we could have a completion of.
I just sent it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Next up is Megan Hall.
Hi, my name is Megan Hall and I'm a parent. So my son's first week at school, he came home with the best story to tell me. Someone's water bottle lid was stuck and they couldn't get it open. But guess who was strong enough to get it off? Deputy Clausen, and he was their hero, let me tell you what. My name is Megan Hall and I'm a parent at Garwood Elementary. I regularly volunteer at the school, helping with the dojo store, going on field trips, and our family regularly attends events at the school. Being involved at the school has allowed me to witness Deputy Brett Clausen and his impact on the school firsthand. I went back and read the board minutes from June 2023 regarding the school resource officer position. My understanding was that while the MOU did not account for the increase in salary, the levy did. Superintendent Arnold had stated that there was funding for the increase. I can understand frustration being asked to pay something different than assigned MOU, but the increase was anticipated and covered by the levy and was advertised that way to the community as well. I would ask the board to approve the increase and in the future update the MOU to account for annual salary increases. Deputy Clausen can be found at the entrance of the school, smiling and greeting all who enter. He sits crisscross on the floor with kindergartners, teaching them about safety and emergencies. His most recent accomplishment was featured in the newspaper, bringing the DARE program to Garwood Elementary and to our 5th graders, a program that can only be taught by a trained officer. Outside of school hours, he can be found at the Fall Festival, Christmas book drive, Easter egg hunt, and bingo, just to name a few things. He even joined us today for our kindergarten picnic outside. As a school resource officer, Deputy Clausen is forming positive and valuable relationships between law enforcement and students that may otherwise not exist. As a part of the Sheriff's Department, he has access to many community resources an armed guard or school staff member would not. Deputies are also trained in emergency medical response, crisis management, and as a mandatory reporter, response to any concerns of child abuse. To replace Deputy Clausen with an armed guard when the funding for the position exists will be devastating to the school and community, doing irreparable harm. I don't know any of you personally, but I assume by accepting the role of a school board member and a volunteer position that you care deeply about our community and our children, and that you would not want to do anything willingly that negatively impacts them. If there is funding available from the levy or private donors, why would the board look to make a change that would negatively impact a thriving school? Is this about enforcing an MOU or looking to do what is best for our school and of revising the MOU appropriately in the future? Who would fill the gaps removing Deputy Clausen would create? They would be large ones. And lastly, why would the community support future levies if the funds are not used for what they were advertised for? I hope the board will see the immense value Deputy Clausen and the SRO program brings to Garwood Elementary. While he checks the box of armed security guard and that he keeps the school safe, he is so much more than that to our students, staff, parents, and community. Knowing there are funds available for this increase in salary, I'd ask the board, is there any reason why we can't keep Deputy Clausen?
Thank you. Ali Kramer.
Good job. It's most Kramer is what I supposed to do. Good job. My number 7. So I think we've reached that.
I have no idea.
Okay, well, my name is Allie Creamer, and I'm a mother in the district. Specifically, I'm a mother at Garwood. And as most of you have seen, I have sat in those chairs for almost every board meeting for about the past year, and it's been a great opportunity for me to listen and watch and learn how the district is run and how you guys make decisions. It's given me an understanding of how complex and challenging all of these decisions are. You have to consider so many perspectives, and I really appreciate the fact that you do through your discussions. I hear that. You have to consider students, staff, parent needs, community and taxpayer input, and budget concerns. So tonight I represent two of those perspectives that you will hopefully be taking into consideration when you make a decision about the MOU with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Department and our current SRO at Garwood. So my perspectives are rather simple. As a mother, there's nothing more important to me than the safety of my children in that building. And as the board, I want you to prioritize that safety with the highest quality personnel. As a taxpayer, this is what I want my money to go to. Even when I don't have students in this district, I'm going to want my money to go towards protecting the children of our community. We currently have a highly qualified, skillfully trained, dedicated, and trusted employee in what I believe to be the most important position at Garwood Elementary. I understand that the plan is to replace our SRO with an armed guard, but the district's attempts to find a qualified replacement in the past have proven to be difficult. We already have what we are looking for, and we would like you to prioritize maintaining it. Removing Deputy Clausen would instantly weaken Garwood. Our community knows and trusts him, our children know and trust him, and there is immense value in that. His removal would weaken and disrupt a well-functioning security system already in place at Garwood. It would weaken the comfort and safety that the kids, the students, the parents all feel in the building. And it would also weaken the trust that parents have in the district's ability to maintain these well-functioning programs, especially when we thought we did what we were asked to do in order to fund it by passing the levy. So while I understand this decision has a lot of things to consider, I just ask that when you make it, you prioritize these two most important things, in my opinion: keeping the highest quality, dedicated employees in our schools, and prioritize the safety of our children above all else. Lastly, if the decision is made to remove our SRO, I just ask that the community and parents get a clear, understandable reason why, because I think we deserve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sarah Longstreet.
Thank you, trustees and Superintendent Arnold, for giving me time to speak. I'd like to start off by thanking you for moving executive session toward the end of the meeting rather than at the beginning, so that we are not waiting. I'd like to address 3 different topics, and I will do my best to keep my points short and sweet. Before I begin, I'd like to note that I play 4 roles. First and foremost, I'm the parent of a child in this district. Second, I am a staff member. I also live in this community. And finally, I am a tax-paying voter. So please keep these things in mind as I continue. First, I'd like to address this board meeting venue. This room no longer accommodates the audience that tries to attend these meetings. Removing or asking the public to remove themselves from the facility without even offering a Zoom link could possibly be a violation of open meeting law. Tonight, I did not see anyone being removed, but I know that more people wanted to be in here. So I am here asking on behalf of many, please move the meeting to a space that can accommodate the members of this community. We have several larger spaces in our district that can accommodate the community members that would like to watch the board's governing processes. The second topic I'd like to touch on is policy meetings. It is my understanding that the purpose of policy meetings is to get stakeholder input while reviewing and revising district policies. Although I was unable to attend the policy meeting on May 2nd, I did watch the video when it was posted to YouTube a few days later. I saw teachers and other staff members express their concerns about being able to provide supplemental materials for their students in a timely manner. They expressed concerns that they are not being entrusted to choose curriculum-aligned materials and that they do not feel trusted by the board to make professional decisions. It was disheartening to see these staff members met with strong defensiveness and at one point, even some confusion. In short, I'd like to see these meetings maintain more collaborative communication. Finally, I'd like to speak to the SRO MOU. I'm going to keep this one really short, as I believe it should be a pretty cut and dry situation. We have known since before the levy that the district's share of the cost would rise to 70%, which is what other districts have been paying. We ran a levy with the promise that we would have this program. That levy passed. Levy dollars need to continue funding this program. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, can I email it to you? Thank you.
And the last person I have is Janelle Dexter.
Good evening. Janelle Dexter, librarian at Lakeland Middle School. I'm here tonight on behalf of the district librarians to respectfully ask that the board refrain from approving any library policies this evening, specifically 2500, 2510, and 2510P. The Zoom meeting we had with Dylan Baker, Deputy State Librarian, and Clay Ritter, Public Library Consultant, this past Friday on May 3rd answered many of our questions regarding HB 710, specifically sections 18-1514, obscene materials, and section 18-1517B, children's school and library protection. But there was much information we were given that has either not yet been addressed or it is incorrect in the draft of those policies. We were given guidelines to follow regarding materials being challenged, who can challenge, and what specifically can be challenged. We were also advised to make sure our district legal team works with us to make sure that our policies are accurate and follow the law. Creating policy now when we have not yet met regarding the full implications of this bill and the state's recommendation is not the wisest course of action. There were many takeaways from the meeting, and we have yet to discuss these with Superintendent Arnold and Assistant Superintendent Dr. Pasley. It would seem a little premature to approve these three policies as they are written and then have to revisit and revise them again in order to make sure they contain the correct information so that we are following the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that hasn't had a chance to give information to the clerk? Okay. All right, moving on to reports. First, we have the financial report. Okay. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or conversations they want to have, or questions for the CFO? No? Okay.
I do.
Well, before you jump into that, I do want to thank you for the new format. I appreciate that. We can chat about that later. Just because I was like, I don't understand a few things, but
Jessica, I'm CFO. I can walk you through that if you would. It takes just a couple minutes. If
Sure.
you'd like. So the new format for the SBA report is similar to the formatting for
Right.
our current financials. The top half of it is basically the summary of the activity below. So
Okay.
the Wells cash is what they have in their SBA bank account, and then the investment cash is what they would have in investments that they can transfer to their checking account if they needed the additional funds.
okay.
All of the accounts below those equity accounts are the individual accounts that they have that money bucketed to, so they should match.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Absolutely.
Any other? Oh, you said you did. Sorry. On the building maintenance, how much of what was spent from general fund
could actually be coming out of the plant and facilities levy?
I will be bringing that forward at our next budget work session. I have a number, but I want to double check two things on it. So we could transfer some of it to the plant facilities levy, which would help the general fund balance for the end of the fiscal year.
And then, to me, looking at this, it doesn't look like base is self-sustaining. It's not paying for itself in a year. If we're, I mean, I understand that it still has a positive fund balance, but we've used $50,000 more than what we brought in for the year. So that tells me it's not self-sustaining, which we've been told over and over and over and over and over that it is. So that's.
We did increase, we did add John Brown this year. The intention was to have 40 enrollment there. That enrollment hasn't come to fruition. So it will be monitored much more closely next year to ensure we're in this. We had trouble getting the staffing in the first place, and then once we got the staffing, we didn't have enough to move it up to the 48, which is what it was based on.
Also, the literacy fund.
Yes.
We have underspent fairly significantly in that fund. Is that right?
If you recall from the budget work session, we do need to transfer some more over. That was part of the FY25. We need to transfer into Medicaid, and we need to transfer into the literacy fund. We had our best guess estimate of what would get us to that. So we'll be transferring some additional K through 3 teacher salaries over to the literacy fund, and with the Medicaid fund, we'll be able to transfer special education support personnel over to that as well.
Perfect. Okay. I had one more here.
Trustee Lane, can I just add a little bit of information to the literacy dollars? We don't know at the beginning of the year exactly how much money we're going to get from the literacy dollars, because the first half is just based on enrollment, but the second half is based on how the kids do on their tests. So it's a best guess, and so then that's why there's the transfer later.
There will generally be a transfer in the late spring as we know the final numbers.
Just getting it out there for everybody to hear.
I appreciate it.
We like the clarity.
Timberlake High School received money from Silverwood. Where is that being accounted for and set aside? Their field house donation.
It's in the facility funds. So Fund 231, and we do have a line item in there for that. So you'll note the revenue for the other local revenue in Fund 231 is very high, and that is partially due to that donation. We also run insurance claims through that, so the fire at the high school was also in that fund.
What will happen with the funds that are raised if there is excess left over? Will that be going to Timberlake, or will it be maintained in the facilities fund?
It will go to the support of that building for which it was generated for. We are tracking that completely separately. It's in that fund, but we have a project coding on it so that we can ensure that any dollars collected for that project are spent on that project. They won't be utilized for anything else.
Awesome. Perfect.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Thank you for the improved student reporting and school reporting. Appreciate that.
Moving on to the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the previous meeting, minutes of subcommittee meetings, and HR items, master staffing sheet, and regular special bills. We'll start with the minutes of the previous meeting. Does anyone have any comments, questions, discussion they'd like to hold on any of the minutes? No? Okay. with respect to the minutes of the subcommittee meetings. Any comments on any of those questions from what you may have found? No? Okay. HR items. Any questions or comments on the resignations or the board book memo?
Was saddened to see a couple of resignations related to
Me as
health
well.
issues that folks have.
Mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. Me as well.
One in particular.
The master staffing sheet.
It was great.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for providing that.
Yeah,
I know
Director
this is-
of HR Brooke Cunningham. You guys, I really apologize. There was a couple of departments I wasn't able to fit in on that sheet because I was running out of time trying to get it to Maria. I would like to bring it back at the next board meeting, or even, the whatever the budget workshop, whichever is next. It is kind of what I provided you guys already before, but I guess it's broken down maybe a little bit better so you guys can, it's a better visual
Yeah, it's
for you.
awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
So much, yeah.
Okay, the regular and special bills. I do have a couple of questions.
Jessica Grantham, CFO.
Thank you. With the Coeur d'Alene School District, the equitable services,
That's part of my title funding.
title funding, okay. The repairs at TLE for damaged, for sprinkler damage, was that from the winter?
That's part of the insurance claim for the water damage related to the pipes bursting.
Okay,
this
I thought that
winter.
had already come through, but, maybe not. On the identimetrics, the food service scan and keypad licensing, we purchased that chart, that's not part of Chartwell?
It comes through the district. It comes through Fund 290.
Okay.
So it is still funded by what Chartwell's, the revenue generated from food service.
Okay.
It's still funded from there, but yes, it was paid out of
So we're
Fund 290.
reimbursed for it, is that?
It's not necessarily reimbursed. All of the revenues for food service go into our Fund 290.
Okay,
And so then we paid that one out of Fund 290.
okay,
So it's within the revenues that come in for the program.
okay. Were the plumbing repairs up at TMS and THS, were those for significant, I mean,
Can I ask Director of Facilities Mike Ferriola to answer that?
Sure.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Mike Carriolo, Facilities Director.
the plumbing repairs at TMS and THS?
What was it for?
What were they?
From the freezing pipes.
Freezing pipes, okay. The repairs to the sprinkler systems at TLE, LMS, JBE, and AE, is that the ground sprinkler system, or is that
As
fire?
fire suppression still left over from the cold winter.
Oh, wow, okay. The athletic field resurfacing at Lakeland Senior High, was that on the new track that we just had installed? Do you know?
Is,
We paid, $10,935.72 to Lakeland, for multiple things. But it says athletic field resurfacing.
Let me look that one up for you.
I'm not sure about that.
I think they paid a little bit for some dirt. I think it was about $1,600 of that $10,000.
It is a dime. Oh, that's okay.
It was about $1,600 of that $10,000 was just for dirt to help level the football field and the practice field.
It was colder.
Yeah.
So it probably feels good to be.
Okay. Oh, it was baseball and softball field supplies?
We bring in Yeah, we have to bring
Okay.
in dirt each year to, and sand and to make
Okay.
the fields play right.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't anything to do with that track that
It's
took
not
us
the
forever to.
No, we are having the track looked at, however, because we have some areas where it's peeling up. And
We
so
have not made the final payment on the track.
Okay.
We anticipate a final walkthrough with the owner of the company
Okay.
to ensure that everything is up to par, based on what we were promised.
done to our satisfaction.
The broken pipe at TMS, was that sprinkler, fire, winter? Okay. Okay, those were all my questions.
I think I know the answer to mine, but it's written as one line item, but I'm sure when Rathdrum invoices us for water, sewer, and the SRO, those are their own separate invoices, maybe utilities, and then the SRO is different, or do they just send us?
Right, on the bill breakout, that's broken
Okay.
out in, total, so March 2024 water sewer was $6,184.45. The SRO for March was $6,788.39, and the crossing guards were $2,590.12.
Okay, alright, thank you. I didn't see it on here, I might have missed it. What do we have going on? Cause it just keeps changing up at Timberlake with Spirit Lake, so are we, did that MOU get re-implemented, or what are we doing for SRO coverage up there? I
We
just
used
haven't
Cooney County
seen
Sheriff's
the-
Office for the
So
SRO.
we
Mhm.
kept that up there, okay.
Yeah,
I just know we went back and forth and I haven't seen it on here, so I was like, really.
They, when we needed to put that in place, they didn't have a police department that
Right,
they
I
had the
remember
staffing.
that, yeah.
So, at the special meeting that we'll have sometime this month, I will bring I have
All of those MOUs,
several
yeah.
MOUs that need to annually be
I just
approved.
didn't remember where, cause they went away and then they came back and then they went, and I hadn't seen it on here, so I was just wondering,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't think I have one.
Okay. Bob or Dave, do you have any questions? No. Okay. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
On that, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to old business, we have the superintendent follow-up. Anybody have any comments or questions on the superintendent's follow-up? They did give us guidance for policy 4210 F2. I crimped it, so that policy is being brought back. Any further comments or discussion on the superintendent follow-up?
The exercise that's described here, is that going to be at Timberlake? Is that what the school is for?
Yes, so it's the Wednesday, June 12th, which is the day after the teacher's last day, and there won't be any students, but there'll be about 100 different actors. And it's a full county response, so the hospital's participating. Last year they did the exercise at Silverwood. This year they wanted to do it at a school for the whole county to practice, but it gives us the opportunity to actually implement our reunification protocol. So it'll be good training for us.
Time permitting, I would like to observe that.
And I will bring forward more information as I get it. They're being kind of tight-lipped because Lynn and I are having to respond without a lot of knowledge, so we do have a meeting tomorrow, so I will see if I can at least determine the best time to let you know when you need to be there. At this point, we don't know.
Well, I can be out of the way.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the superintendent follow-up?
No, thank you, Lisa.
The financial follow-up?
one I had a hard time opening.
Board Chair Thompson,
Yes.
if we could go back to my update, my follow-up. I updated my follow-up after we had the agenda planning. And I obviously did not let the clerk know that I updated it, and it looks like it was already in there, but Mr. Pettit is here from Lakeland High School, so on there we have 3 Timberlake High School FCCLA members who qualified for nationals in Seattle, and they're attending. Mr. Pettit is here because he has students who qualified for nationals in industrial mechanics, and they will be traveling to Atlanta, Georgia, so their families are raising those funds. I had it on as a discussion item and then realized that I had the Timberlake High School in my update and the Lakeland High School in the discussion, and so Maria took the discussion item off, but my update didn't make it in there, so I just want to make sure that you're aware that that's why Mr. Pettit is here in case you have questions.
Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Are you going?
Yep.
Denied.
I mean, it was in the bottom of your, I saw it on there, the bottom of your update, it's in there.
Is it? I didn't see it.
The
It's not
FCCLA.
on the agenda,
Oh.
but it's in your notes, I think.
Notes.
Yeah.
In my update that I was just looking at, I didn't see it in there.
It says we have 3 THS FCCLA members who qualified for nationals in Seattle. They'll be attending with their parents and are paying for their own travels as this is a national competition.
Yes, and then when we met to do agenda planning, I noticed that I had that in my update, but I had the Lakeland High School information, same information as a discussion item.
Oh,
So
okay.
at the agenda planning, I had let Maria know we can just take that off and I'll put it in here. But I didn't think to let her know that she needed to update the PDF, so I'm sorry about that. So.
Okay.
Well, since you're here, tell us about what these kiddos are doing.
It's a Skills
You need
USA
to come
event.
to the podium, please.
And
And announce yourself.
Corey Pettit, Lakeland High School, shop teacher. We went to state Skills USA in Boise, and it's a 3-person team. It's a welding fabrication. They got first place. They did really well. They beat the other teams by quite a bit. So qualified for nationals. Nationals is in Atlanta, Georgia. I think June 24th and 29th. Kids are raising money for themselves. So.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What is the cost for them to participate, each student? What do they have to raise? How much?
It's like 7,000 divided by 3. So if you want to do that quick math, yeah. I just did a total of what we need to do overall.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So what did they win other than they won? I mean, did they get a trophy? Was there dollars? What was their
Each one got a
prize?
medal. I think each one got a new welding helmet. That's really nice.
Cool.
They got some gloves. I think there was a scholarship for College of Southern Idaho, I believe. So one of them's going to go to NIC in the welding program. Another one's going to go to U of I think, in civil engineering. And the other one wants to do like wind turbine like technician. But all this will look really good on the resumes that they compete
sure.
in nationals.
Absolutely.
So,
Cool.
That's
Yep.
awesome. Yay. Very good.
Thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Pettit.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Would anybody mind if we open that door to help with circulation? in this chair? Oh, you turn the air conditioner.
You can pop it open.
Yeah.
Something came
I'll do
on.
it. We have to turn the work.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, the AC's not working?
We haven't had you guys ever turn it on for us.
Next. Oh, I don't know that did we finish the was there anything on financial? I thought I had something. I can't seem to find it, which is, that's crazy.
Chair Thompson.
Yeah.
Jessica Grantham CFO. I just wanted to let you know with the short window, with us having to have materials turned in on the 3rd, financials aren't done for the district by the 3rd. I should have told you this in my earlier monthly report. It was a very short window. We don't even have the buildings, they're not required to turn their financials into us until the 5th business day of the month. So I just wanted to let you know that there might be a little bit more variance next month because of the early meeting this month.
Okay. Thank you. Next month you'll have even more time.
Yeah.
Extra time next
Extra
month.
time.
Okay, we have the facilities update. So it looks like Lakeland Junior Tackle is going to be doing some field renovation for the middle school field, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I believe they raised about $10,000 for this project. Yep.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Director of Facilities Mike Ferriol and myself, so Jessica Grantham CFO. We met with Lakeland Junior Tackle. They have committed $15,000 to resurfacing the Lakeland Middle School field.
Okay.
They plan to take it down, level it out, laser level it out, and resod the entire field. So they've asked that we kindly keep people off the field from the end of the school year through August, which should be fairly easy to do. They're also spray painting the fence to make it look nice and silver, and a couple other things.
Some signage, I believe.
Some signage, and they're committing to doing some fertilizing to it because they would like to fertilize more than the district fertilizes. It also sounds like, to their benefit, the companies that they were working with are donating quite a bit of the materials.
Okay.
So they're hoping to use that funding that they're not spending on that to do some other improvements.
Oh, that's exciting. As long as whoever they're having do
They have
the
liability
spraying
insurance.
and stuff
Yep.
is
Yep.
properly
No,
licensed.
I've already
and-
asked for their
okay.
certificate of insurance, and we're on that.
Any other questions by anyone?
No. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you to the Lakeland Junior Tackle.
Moving on to new business. First up is policies. All right, we have the library materials, the selection of library materials, and the selection of library materials procedure. When the policy committee went over these policies, we went over it with the House bill that had been passed with respect to library. And administration was at all the meetings for this. Lisa and Lynn were both there, present. Does anyone have any questions or comments on these?
Is there an urgency about having these in place?
The law goes into effect July 1st, so we need to make sure that we have our policies updated and we're ready to go so that when we come back in the fall, we have things dialed in. When I went to the Ed Law Conference, I did ask the attorneys at Anderson, Julian Hull for some guidance because there definitely is some gray area in the language in the law that we were not sure how to address. Their response to me was, we think a lot of that guidance is going to come through litigation, which is not helpful. However, the information that the librarians learned in their webinar could prove to be helpful to us as far as some of the procedures. For example, the language in the law says that if a parent, a student, or a staff member wants to challenge a book that's in the library, it immediately has to be put in the adult section of the library, walk through the challenge process. We don't have an adult section of the library, so what does that mean for us? Where do we put that book? So there just are some little things that we might need to clean up. I think we did a really good job on the policies. There was a lot of input that Michelle took and just a lot of collaborative discussion. There just may be a few things that we might need to add or modify.
I guess I would just voice a concern I've had in the past, and that is you all have had the benefit of a lot of discussion and input in preparing the policy. We've had only a few short days to read through it and try to digest it. And I've read through it all, and I'm not sure that I comprehend it all, to be honest. And
Did you
I
read
found
through the
some
clean one?
sections particularly interesting, let's say. And so I'm going to ask that we table the discussion and action on 2500, 2510, 2510P, 2520, and 2530 until the next regular board meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I would like to have the board's input though before calling for a vote on that motion to move on. Within policy 2500, part of the struggle within the policy committee and this policy and the law has to do with the fact that administration was supportive in the fact that within the policy we're including everyone, parents, teachers, staff, students, and community members. Some of the librarians don't want community members to have any, have the ability to challenge any of the materials within our library. It would behoove the board, since Bob wants to table this, to think about that and provide input to the policy committee. Because it is challenging when we're trying to be transparent, we're trying to be all-inclusive of everything, but now we're going to say, no, not here. We're going to do it everywhere else, but not here. So if the board can reflect on it, and hopefully maybe next month we can have a deeper, in-depth conversation on this, that would be great.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see them wanting an input. I mean, whether they have children in the district or not, the students that the district produces still impact their lives, right?
Absolutely.
And it even goes,
They pay taxes.
yeah, and well, and I mean, even beside the tax thing, they do impact their lives, you know, they, you know, are serving them at the restaurants, the grocery stores, they might be their doctor someday,
Right.
they might be their, you know.
Next door neighbor.
Right, yeah,
Yep.
anything, so I can see that. I do understand also though from the librarian and the teacher's perspective that, cause I didn't attend all of the policy meetings, but the last one, it was evident that they feel, they don't feel supported, they really feel ganged up on, like everybody thinks they're a bad teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how we overcome that besides animal practices, but.
Well, and
So I did hear that concern.
2530 and 2520 have not actually gone through any revisions. They were put on here in the, I put them actually in the, or I had Maria put them in the wrong section. They should have been under discussion, not under policies for approval, because the board does need to weigh in on the fact that there is staffing doesn't have, staffing meaning teachers, don't have qualms with the selection, adoption, use, and removal of curricular materials. However, another policy that we do have, which was a little confusing, so to speak, is the learning materials review and reconsideration. What was expressed passionately at the policy committee is that teachers really feel that through policy we have bound their hands. That if what they want to teach the children has not been approved, according to policy, they're not allowed to utilize it to teach the kids.
And if they do, they're in violation of policy.
Correct.
I understand their feeling about that, yeah, I really do.
Well, and I absolutely felt the passion that was coming from the teachers. Part of the struggle, though, is having, I guess, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but the frustration is having the ability to just go out onto the internet to find something to support whatever you're teaching when you're not able to produce or want to produce what you need from the curriculum and you're going to some alternative source. That, I think, is where there needs to be further clarification or direction. So one of the things that was just sort of talked about was, because apparently teachers nowadays are often on the fly with modifying and doing things such as that. Because things are different now. I mean, back maybe even 10, 15 years ago, when teachers did lesson planning, it wasn't based off of what they could find on the internet. Well, now because the internet is so prevalent, everything is easily accessible. But having sort of a chain of command to where there may be some sort of temporary approval for a teacher until it could get through the curriculum process of going through the supplemental curriculum for the board to approve it.
Or more, yeah, because it's 4 weeks or whatever, 6 weeks.
It's 4 to 6 weeks before they can get something approved, which is an extremely long time given that you're in the middle of a lesson. And the way lessons are formulated, planned out, etc., has morphed and changed and isn't exactly the same way as it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Well, and the laws keep changing all the time in our hands. That's
Right.
the thing, is the district didn't, or the policy committee didn't dream these up. They came because of all these new laws that every year keep passing, and then ISBA says, oh, here's, even though we don't belong to them, somehow we still get their moral policies, and it's like, here's everything you have to have. It's like,
yeah,
great, okay.
So,
so in the remembrance of the discussion of the other things, I guess those are all, they all sort of go together. We just have to figure out how are we going to handle this going forward.
Right.
You know, what does it look like? How are we going to, you know, stay within the law? I understand not everybody's always going to be happy, but try and make it digestible for all those involved, and you know, still produce a good education for the kids.
Well, and the reality is policy is this board's job. And it's challenging sitting on the policy committee because people are asking me for answers and I'm not giving any answers. I keep telling them they need to come bring it to the board. So that's why 2520 and 2530 are actually before us, before they've gone through the policy committee processes. There was a lot of passion expressed at the last policy committee meeting. So it would be great if the board members could read through the policies as they currently sit, provide some suggestions to the committee of where they'd like to see this policy go, in support of staff, in support of parents, in support of the whole process, so that we're not producing something that's going to go out to the public that we're going to have to completely rewrite anyway.
Exactly.
So, I guess I'm a little confused. If 2520 hasn't been through, or 2530, if they haven't been, what are all of the edits and what is that all from if it hasn't been through policy committee at all?
2520, wait, which one is it? 2520 has been. It's the 2530 and wasn't there another one? Oh, 2530 has not gone through the complete process, and neither has 2520 has not gone out for community input. The amount of passion and emotion that was at the committee, I felt it important to loop the board into the fact that we have this going on. I mean, there was a lot expressed by staff. And we've kind of created a conundrum because it was suggested to change the time, but when we've changed the time, now none of the parents can come because the parents are all working. So now we have to readdress that, because the policy committee used to meet from 6 to 8 to allow for everyone to come. It was after work hours. But then it was requested to move it to 4 or 4:30 so that staff could come. So we did that, but now no parents can come. It's just it's a thing. So
action.
In the case of 2530, is all the blue type ISBA suggested
Yes,
policy?
yes.
They love bureaucracy up here.
Yes, they do. And we do our best to weed it all out and make it very straightforward so people understand what we're trying to accomplish within the policy.
The black was our original policy.
Yeah,
It was
that
like
little-
2 paragraphs, that was it.
That was it.
The shorter, the simpler, the better.
Yeah.
I hear you. However, teachers want to know what they can do, what's expected by this board through the policy, etc.
that's
And the
fair.
law change.
But you know,
Yeah.
and this is a classic example. I mean, there's a page and a half here that describes the review process by a committee that is not numbered.
Right.
It just says it has to be an odd number. Could be 3 or it could be 21.
Right.
You know, and it goes into a lot of language about this and that and the other thing, and it just.
Well, it's a lot that we've never had.
Yeah.
And so, with respect to how do we want to give teachers the ability to teach in utilizing materials that haven't been approved because they're on the fly and trying to accommodate the needs of their students, and the curriculum that we have approved doesn't meet them.
Yeah, and I really haven't, been in the classroom myself for a number of years. I really appreciate the fact that teachers deserve a degree of spontaneity in dealing
Right.
with issues, particularly in science and social studies and
Right.
some of those kind of fields. So, one of the options I would suggest, and you can do with it as you want, but having a second set of eyes, for example, on something that a teacher would like to use,
Right.
what goes a long way toward somebody else maybe seeing it differently, objectively,
Right.
seeing something there that's a red flag that isn't initially sought. That's one approach that could be taken, I think.
Okay.
Whether that second set of eyes is another teacher, a department chair, or the principal, or whomever.
Okay, so if the committee thought of sort of a process, a collaborative process that allowed for a temporary approval before material could actually go through the whole curriculum supplemental
I'm a
process.
classroom teacher. I come in one morning and I pass by the principal's office and say, hey, I saw something on the internet last night I'd like to use in class, 4th period, whatever. Here's what it is. What do you think? And you get a thumbs up or thumbs down. Or,
Right.
That doesn't really look like something appropriate.
I hear you.
So, we're kind of giving the teacher the benefit of the doubt in terms of being able to locate that kind of thing if they choose to. But we have a little bit of a check on it that's not a big, long process, I guess.
Right, right. That's why thinking of sort of maybe a step-up process to where ultimately whatever it is has to go through the supplemental process so that the board can weigh in on it and say yay or nay ultimately. But if the teacher's going through the principal, if the principal's got question going through the superintendent before this can all get to the board, then is that sufficient?
That is in my mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's, yeah.
And then something back to what you were saying, in the bill, it almost sounds like it's a mixture of public library and school library that doesn't sound like the language is very clear. You
In
would say that
in
it
the
just-
House Bill
yeah.
710?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because why would there's never been an adult section in elementary school,
Right.
secondary, I mean, there's not.
Right, right. So, and then, we had a question about, so do we, while it goes through the review process, do we remove the book, which is kind of what we were thinking, but then based on the information from the webinar that our librarians attended, it says that it shouldn't be until a decision is made, it should remain in circulation. And this document that I got today, it just says that there's a lot in here about banning
Yeah.
books, right? So First Amendment rights and those kinds of things. We just want to
Right.
make sure that we're writing the policy so the staff in the district and the parents and the kids, and everybody is protected, and that we're not setting ourselves up for a lawsuit on the other side of the fence because we're being too proactive, I guess, in taking books out that people are having some issues with. So we just have to be really clear about what we want that to look like.
Yeah, well, I don't think I mean, unless they're just extremely egregious, we just deal with them like we have the other ones.
Where
And the
they're
other thing
opting
is,
in and out.
I'm wondering if at some point the district, the board, whomever, needs to formulate a letter to the community, the parents, whomever, and communicate to them that this is an endeavor the board's been working on, but they also have to give us a little bit of grace in that there are thousands of books that have been in our
Tens of
district
thousands.
forever, and we are, you know, even all the staff, they're working all day long. They don't have time to read every book. We don't have time to read every, you know, we're working to make sure that, you know, those things are addressed, and if they're extremely egregious, they're handled however. But I mean, they are gonna have to understand that, you know, the district's been here forever and a day, and this isn't all gonna go away overnight. And I think the other thing is too, is every time something's been brought to the board, or to you, or to a teacher or principal that I'm aware of, it's always been addressed. There's never been a time when, that I'm aware of, where somebody has addressed an issue with curriculum or a book or something that, you know, the response was, you know, too bad, so sad kind of thing. That has never happened. So for all of this hyper, you know, overinflated responsing, you know, so maybe a letter, maybe, I mean, I don't know how else to, but they're just gonna have to understand, we are not going to be able to, in 1 year, 2 years, probably not even 3 years, unless we have 100 dedicated people that can do it, you know, that this is just gonna be an ongoing process.
Yes, I wrote myself a note and I will put that letter together.
Well, and that's just it. Even if somebody did have the time, that's one person and one person's
Right.
view. So they may think a book is fine, and somebody else may say that is the worst book. I do not want it
Right.
anywhere near
Right.
School. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
But in order to ban the book, it has to be educationally inappropriate with regard to obscenity, which this law clearly outlines and
Yeah.
well, pretty clearly. We have some questions actually about that, but
The federal law is very clear
It does
on
give us.
obscene materials.
Yeah, it does give us the guidelines and the parameters, and then we do have the procedure in place where every fall when parents register, or now spring, when parents register their kids, they will opt in to whatever library genres they're comfortable with for their kids.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things this board has done a really good job of is making sure that each parent gets to make decisions for their own child, and that we don't have
Right.
other parents making decisions for other kids' children.
Right.
And I think that we just have to maintain that, so I'm happy to put that letter together.
Alright, so we currently have a motion on the floor
and a second.
and a second, but I don't remember which,
It was to table.
all the
All the
25s.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Except 2580 though wasn't. part
It
of
was
that,
just
right?
through up to 2530, correct?
Correct.
Through 2530.
Okay. Motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to 2580, that's use of animals in education program. When the board began drafting the therapy dog, not therapy, was it therapy? Therapeutic training dog. Anyway, it was discovered that we didn't even have a policy to govern having animals in the classroom. So 2580 is a new policy that did go out for patron input. We had some great input provided by teachers. So that is, and the format kind of changed. I had Maria put the corrected copy on top and then the clean copies below. So I don't know if y'all scrolled through all of that. So I don't know if there's any questions on that policy, but it was just basically to get in place the use of animals in our educational programs. And there is a permission form that goes with that as well as procedures for dissection of animals. And then the community use of school facilities and form and procedures, those were all tabled last month, waiting for input from ICRIMP, which we did receive. And that has been updated on the form.
Chair Thompson.
Yes.
Hey, Andrew. Jessica Grantham, CFO. I'd like to respectfully request the tabling of the Series 4210. We are planning to bring a new rate schedule with the budget hearing. And rather than bring those policies back again in July to be reapproved, I'd like to hold on and just put the new rate table in if it's approved with the budget hearing.
We don't have a form specific just to the rate table. The rate table's
it's part
within
of
the policy.
4210. Yes.
Right.
And we can break that out, but if it is approved as is right now, I will be bringing it back in July.
I need to find the rate table first, because I think,
It's just LinkedIn, right?
yeah. I don't understand why we would have to revise the policy when the policy doesn't specifically state this is the rate. There's and I can't find a link for, unless it's here. Where's my phone?
I saw it.
If you go to the request online then the district's website, it takes you to our district page, which has the fee schedule on it.
Okay,
That's what she's talking
but the fee schedule is not part of what's being approved here within the policy.
Then my apologies, it must have been taken out at policy committee and I was unaware because it was part of the original policy.
I thought the intention was to take it out of the policy so that if it needed to be updated, that would be in and of its own self. Because I mean, it does reference the fee schedule, but the fees are not bound up in the policy.
It was, I apologize, in 4210P.
Okay.
If you scroll all the way through.
I still don't.
In the old one down at the bottom, on page 19.
It's all the one that's struck.
Well, it says
Yeah, it's way
the
at the
facility
bottom.
use fee schedule is available in policy 4210F.
It's right here on 4210P. It's all struck out. But if we approve the revised version, it's not in
Right.
there anyway, so.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing though, question I did have is on, is that the right one? No, but it was on 4210P. Under the right to decline use, did we ever get legal input on the right to decline use? Because that was requested back in March, I believe, to get legal to weigh in on the language within the right to decline use to make sure that we're not in violation of anything.
Yes, we did. I just sent it to Maria has it.
It should have been included, because I updated the PDF too, so I'm not sure why it's not in there.
Well,
On page 9?
on page 7 is of the P is the right to decline use. It's highlighted in yellow. And there's a statement that says this is ISBA's recommendation. We need legal input on the ability to decline use. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's at the, if you
Yep,
keep scrolling
page
down,
9.
Megan's response is right there. It says, hi Lynn, in this
It's
setting.
from an email that Lynn has.
Okay.
That's why I touched it.
has that been updated? Or that is the update that we're looking at in yellow there?
That has not been updated. That was ISBA's language, and what Megan is stating is that, it seems vague. So, the restriction must be reasonable and viewpoint neutral if we're gonna decline.
That seems vague.
I hear you. I mean, it says when there's a probability of damage or injury to school property, that's in what's on the policy. Well, I mean, that's possible with any event that's held within our buildings, so that seems like a very broad, like, if we don't want your tournament here, well, we can say no. But if we do want your tournament here, we can say yes. That seems like that would be problematic, huge problematic. So I don't know, I don't know if the board agrees with the language that's under right to decline. Megan says it's vague, but, you know, the language is fine, but it is intentionally vague. So I don't know what.
I don't find any fault in the language.
Okay. So is the board okay with the language under the right to decline use? Mm-hmm. Is that what I'm hearing?
I am.
Okay.
And we had one more question for clarification on the category 2, due to a recent situation where a group felt they should be category 2, and our interpretation would be that they are category 3. So we'd like to clean up the language in category 2 under in-district community organization groups.
Where is it?
Page 1.
1 of 8.
It's bullet point 4 under category
Yes.
2. That needs to be cleaned up.
Based on our interpretation, we would place them in category 3. The argument was that they would be category 2 and should not have to pay for the use of facilities.
So what language would you propose be added to clean that up?
It would be more to narrow the EG. So in this instance, it was a homeowners association.
Okay.
And they wanted to identify as a neighborhood group, but it's not necessarily for the benefit of the schools.
Okay.
So we're just
Right.
trying to narrow that down a little bit to what we actually intend with that category.
Okay. I think it's pretty clear, but
It was a long argument.
well, did they offer any explanation as to how they are directly benefiting the schools and the district students?
They consider themselves a community development group, as we
Again,
specifically
how is that
outlined.
directly benefiting the schools and the district students?
Specifically outlined in the policy, we see community development group. So they felt that they fit that category regardless. It's spelled out.
Okay.
It took a lot of time on that one,
Okay.
more than it should have.
That happens. Okay, so there's apparently language that needs to be reclarified in 4210P. 4210 does not require any adjusting.
Sorry, I apologize. I'll amend my request to just 4210P.
Okay, so that leaves left open policies 2580, 2580F, 2580P, 4210, 4210F2, and 4210P that we have left to either vote on or do whatever we're gonna do.
Which was the one with the language,
4210P. Yeah.
And what was that category again with the?
Category 2 on page 1 of 8 of that
Bullet point
policy.
4. It's bullet point 4.
Yeah.
I have this stupid font thing that keeps popping up in the PDF. So the HOA wanted to be classified as in-district community organization groups. You know, they are defined in statute, and that their definition in statute would not meet that. Because HOA is a statute.
Right.
So that's why they have to have them.
They specifically identified as a community development group, which we specifically outlined in that bullet point.
Yeah, I get the whole, in today's world, identifying as, but the law's pretty clear. That's fine, we can, our policy, I don't know, the policy can talk about it. So 553203 is the definition, if you wanna note that, for the Homeowners Act Association.
55.5?
3203.
You write that down. So is there further discussion or conversation to be had on these? Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve policy 2580, 2580F, 2580P, 4210, 4210F2.
So moved.
You're seconding. She just moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And I'd like to move to table policy 4210P.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to supplemental curriculum. Does anyone have?
As the assistant superintendent, I did give you guys the Google form that I created at the last board meeting. We talked about changing the form. I included the spreadsheet for you of how the answers come to me, but it's not as user-friendly as the old platform that we use, so I then just put it in our old platform. You guys are the only one that have access to that, but I just thought it would be easier for you, so if you don't want both forms, I don't have to do it that way. I just thought it was easier to read.
It was much easier to read the old format. Thank you for doing both.
If you guys are comfortable, I will just continue to do that for you, if that's what you'd like.
Move to approve the recommendation for supplemental resources.
Second.
Would anyone like to have any discussion on this?
Yeah, the education.com website, I mean, look, fairly safe, looked like it had some pretty good stuff on there, but then it had some questionable things. I'm just thinking as time goes on, I mean, there's no way we're gonna know what's updated or not updated, or, I mean, I don't know what to do about that. And then the book, again, I guess that's just a parental thing, the rules book, which had pretty good reviews, but then there were some from students and those who have the disability who didn't agree it was such a great book, but I didn't see anything that was real alarming, you know.
So Trustee Grissom,
Mhm.
with regard to education.com, which looks like it's a program that helps generate worksheets and practice opportunities.
Well, it does everything. There's, yeah, I
Our students-
perused it quite extensively.
I just was wondering if, based on the conversation we had about the supplemental materials, if they're going to use something from that site. I'm not sure this is a site kids go to, this is a teacher resource.
Right.
If we maybe did what Trustee Jones suggested, where you have 2 sets of eyes on it, if you're going to use it, make sure that everybody feels like it's quality, and then it gets submitted to the committee for approval for further use. If that makes you feel better about that, since it isn't static and it does change.
Well, I was just raising the comment. I didn't necessarily, I mean, I don't think I voiced the concern either way. I was just making a point that we would not have any control over it, and the point about the book being, you know, somebody else who had, you know, both student and other that does have the disability, that didn't think it was a very good light on them, but
Well,
it looked pretty good, you know.
I think we brought up before in supplemental curriculum that if it's a website that's coming to us, there actually needs to be like, what are you taking off of this website? Is it just the website in general?
They just want the worksheets from it so that they can have lower Lexile levels, because it's for the struggling learners. And so within the grade band, some of their kids are significantly lower than that, so they would need to tap into some primary grades. So again, it's the worksheet portion of it. It would not be necessarily the kid side of it. It's they need access to lower Lexile levels.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we want to have any further discussion?
I was curious, are we gonna get Alexa to do the computer science portion? Or are we doing this without Alexa? Do you know, for the high school?
Alexa?
And projectsystem.org.
Yeah, that's what
sorry.
I mean, you can use it with it or without. I was just curious.
We've been encouraged by our attorneys to not have Amazon Echo devices in our schools.
They never requested that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because we know that they listen in, and that makes parents uncomfortable, makes teachers uncomfortable, so we've been encouraged not to do that.
Right. Yep, I don't have. If I had concerns, those would have been it. I would like to see, some type of a self-authoring tool, unless we've used one already for some of our upper grades, that would be great.
Self-offering?
Authoring tool.
Oh, authoring.
Yeah.
We actually, at one point we used them more at the elementary level where kids were creating their own books. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it's author your own self. So it's an introspect, basically, who am I, where am I going, what am I doing, and how am I gonna get there before they leave high school. You know, so they have some, it helps them give direction and goal, you know, but.
Put it in written word.
Yeah.
It's called self-authoring software.
Yeah. But it's sort of meant to keep sort of like your own personal portfolio kind of thing once you get it going, you know, and tweak it as you go. It's like a living document.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Anyways, that was the only thing I had about it. The website, that was it.
Okay. No further discussions. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Stay up here.
What do we got? Okay, new course request. A May new course proposal. so there's a new jazz band course proposal and an NNU dual credit descriptive astronomy course. I'm curious, with the dual credits from NNU, where we're actually also allowing students to take them that are not attending NNU, are we looking at the curriculum at all? And the reason why I ask that is because when they are dual enrolled, that liability lies within the parent, that it's their responsibility.
Right.
However, according to statute, if it's for students within high school, this board is still supposed to be approving that curriculum. I don't know that we've seen curriculum that's NNU's that's being offered to students just as high school students, not dual.
That's because NNU allows us to use our textbooks.
Okay.
NIC does not.
Okay, so it's our
It's
textbook.
our textbook.
Okay. So it's actually
Where did the
do
jazz band
NNU's
request come
versus NIC's.
I think it's
Timberlake High School.
Yep. Yeah, it's Mrs. Wenstrom.
Is there an open period? Is this going to replace something that's already in existence?
It will replace something because it's the music teacher, so she's just adding a different music elective for kids in lieu of something else.
Something's going to go away, so this can come in.
Yes.
So does the astronomy book have, it says curriculum, Savas Earth Science?
That's current.
That's the current one?
You guys
Okay.
just approved that
Okay.
at the end of last year, so it's a new book this year that we're using.
Yeah, it's challenging when these courses come and there's no curriculum with it, that, we don't know what we've got going on there.
Yep. And the push, just so the board knows, when the state rewrote the science standards, we are now required at the high school level to offer earth science, which has not been a course offering. It's traditionally been physical science, biology, chemistry, physics, and we haven't had an earth science. And so at both of our high schools, we now offer earth science. Because we're required to do so.
So kind of the same question.
Physics.
Science class, is this something being moved out of the way so this course can be taught? What's being moved?
We would have to ask Mr. Everlin, but I mean, he only has so many science teachers. We have to teach an earth science class, which means they may have compressed a couple of physics classes, which typically have smaller student numbers, to make room in the master schedule for a section of earth science.
Okay.
Any other further discussion or comments on these proposed courses?
Nope, I would move to approve both new courses.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next, we have the issuance of contracts for certified staff.
So I was really
Please
director
introduce yourself.
of Human Resources, Brooke Cunningham. I was really optimistic when I put this window on. I know we have a special board meeting coming up. We have a board workshop coming up. This is normally the window that we open every year. I don't know when we're going to be able to finish negotiations. I mean, you guys can go ahead and vote on this if you want, but there is a possibility we might have to change that window depending on what's coming up. I just have to have contracts of some sort issued before July 1.
everything. It does take me about 5 days after we have finished negotiations or whatever to generate those contracts.
Okay.
And we have in the past, if we haven't finalized negotiations by the end of the school year, the HR department will reissue the contracts everybody's currently on so that we get people signed and everybody knows they have a job. And then we can finish negotiations, and once that's done, she will issue the new contracts.
So the window is valid in either event.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the food service management bid. Looks like we received a contract from Chartwell's. It was the only one that was brought forward. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, I would think the contractor would present the board with cinnamon rolls tonight or something.
And the audience. Duly noted.
He didn't know if we were gonna approve it.
Well, it's the only one, so what are we gonna do?
We weren't provided with the contract.
Jessica Grantham, CFO. The state has to approve the contract before I can bring the official contract language to you. They have, because it's a state contract as well, they have to approve it. It is the same language with 2 provisions that are required by state statute. So it is the exact same language as our previous contract. Nothing's changed other than the company is not and will not be sold to China and will not operate out of China, and that we will not be making any purchases from China for food services.
Okay.
So those are the only 2 really changes to the contract outside of our existing contract that we have with Chartwell's.
Okay.
Interesting.
Those are Idaho statutes.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Yep.
Gladly move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Moving on to the football equipment request. This is an annual dealio for both high schools to approve the football equipment usage for camps.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We have a budget adoption timeline.
So this would, all of this change based on what you sent in your proposed date in the email?
Well, I sent the proposed date change to the board and didn't get any response back, so I put this in here so that you could have a discussion about when you wanted to hold that special meeting.
Right. So what is in here is that, let me go back. So I guess for clarification, I didn't answer because the emails were turning in to more of a discussion and I didn't want to go there in email. So anyway, so this is not the date, oh no, because it's Monday, May 13th. Okay.
So at the last budget workshop, CFO Grantham asked that we hold a special meeting and meet these timelines. I asked if we could hold that meeting because it had to be, it was my assumption based on what was presented that it had to be held right quick. So that's why the 13th was chosen. I asked for it to be bumped to Friday because I will be gone. And then we had other things that were preventative of that. So that's why it was brought back around. The first timeline would be that the budget hearing, I mean, I still think we're still meeting the budget hearing of Wednesday the 12th, whether we do it May 13th or
28th.
Tuesday, May 28th.
Yeah.
We're still within the
I have a couple of concerns. First of all, that's a terrific time crunch for the finance people to try to pull all that together within 2 days. secondly, one of the things that I noticed as we were going through some of the information from the last budget workshop, if you look at the projected year-end totals by category in the general fund, some of those are expected to run significantly over, particularly in the salaries area. And it's my understanding that part of the reason for that is the fact that we ended up approving a budget last year before we finished IBB, and so raises were given subsequent to the approval of the budget, and so to the casual looker, it looks like we've grossly overexpended in some areas.
Right.
And I would like to make sure that we somehow get that in tow before we go into another year. So I think the sooner we can kind of settle on where we need to be budget-wise, the better in terms of making that happen. So I would prefer we meet sooner than later.
Well, I mean, does the board think we're gonna be able to do all this in one meeting? I mean, I don't foresee that. I think there's so much going on, and it's my understanding everything that came back from the state and just the overall budget for shortfall from the state, which was what, 1.25 million difference? Is that what it was from last year? Anyways, is one gonna be enough? When I looked at it, because it looked like at the time there was multiple things that was preventing all of us from being in the same room and bouncing whatever off of each other. If we did a budget meeting, okay, May 28th, and then we did a budget meeting on June 10th, and then we did a budget meeting on June 11th, which I know is back to back, but this was when I was looking at the calendar of when the days of people were gonna be gone, which I guess has changed again, except for maybe the chairs. And then our regular board meeting would be that Wednesday, and yeah, it's back to back that week, but even if we published, so my thought process is this, is we have between now and publishing a hearing notice, which has to contain the budget, June 14th.
Trustee Grissom, respectfully, I have to have the budget published in the paper by May 31st in order to be 10 days prior to the hearing.
We have to submit it by the 30th.
I get that, but you didn't let me finish my timeline. If we published in the paper by June 14th, we put all this work in, almost a month, in between the time we publish and we have the hearing, because we can approve the budget at the hearing. And if the budget is published in June 14, and we have the hearing June 26, that gives us the 10.
So we can't have we can't have the hearing the 26th because statutorily it says the budget hearing has to be no more than
10 days.
28 days.
No less than 28.
The budget hearing must be held no later than 28 days prior to the regular July board meeting.
Right.
So when you back up from our regular July board meeting, that puts our budget hearing
That's
on
the
June
date that
12th.
you have to back in.
And additionally,
And that's Idaho Code 33801.
Additionally, it had to notify both counties of the budget hearing date
Right.
by April 30th, and so the date was consistent with what we had planned for June 12th.
Okay. I was just trying to give us more time. I already worked it out and went through everybody that wrote it, but that's fine. We could have adopted it at the hearing and given us 34 days to have, but that's fine. Whatever you guys think you need to do, I'm good.
It has to be published for 10 days prior to,
Right.
to the budget hearing.
I know that.
Yeah.
That was the timeline I just gave, but I was just trying to make it so everybody could be here, everybody could give input, and we don't end up in the same position we were last year. But that's fine.
Well, with either of these timelines, we have the meeting on May 13th, and then the board's never getting back together again until the budget hearing. So whether we do that meeting on May 13th or whether we do it on May 28th, the board's never getting together again until the hearing. So I hear what you're saying, which has always been part of my frustration and struggle with our processes, is we're always just given this saying, here, approve this. There is no collaborative discussion or effort brought into the fact that, you know, this money right here seems a little high. We need to have more money over here. The board's never been privy to that, which has always been one of my frustrations. And I thought this year we were going about it a little differently, and it doesn't seem that we are. We're back into the same boat of we'll be presented with information, and then it will come forward at the hearing. And then at the hearing, if we want to make changes at that time, then we would do so. So,
with the intention of the special meeting, as we discussed at the last budget workshop, was to provide the board the opportunity to provide that guidance. The admin team and the district leadership team has worked to come up with recommendations to bring to the board for that special meeting, which is why we needed it to be a special meeting and not a work session, so that you could approve what direction you wanted us to take with the budget. So that was the intention of that special board meeting on May 13th, was for the board to provide that collaborative input.
So
We're not approving the budget at that point.
We're not approving.
Right.
Well, we would approve the directives given to administration.
with regard to where we make, where
right,
we
so
trim and
whether
trim
it's the
things.
13th or the 28th, it's the same type of meeting.
Yes.
Is all I'm saying. Because the remainder of the timeline is still in line with,
And that's why we've had
What?
a couple of budget workshop conversations.
It's always a crunch situation, and it kind of always will be, because we're dependent upon the state.
Waiting for those state numbers
They have
before we
the
can.
information that we need in order to even begin budget preparation.
Mhm.
You know, and then we have to go hopefully through the process where we have some input in terms of priorities.
Right, and this is a unique situation in the sense that it's Jessica's first year for building a budget, and she's asked to start with a clean slate and build it up, which I think is the right approach,
Right.
Given where we were and what had been going on.
Well, and with all due respect, it's not Jessica's fault that you'll be out of town for 3 weeks either and not be able to attend meetings during those other weeks that.
I am able to attend them via Zoom, and instead of holding it on Monday, I just asked that it could be held on Friday. But then the superintendent was going to a graduation, and then Jessica has a tournament, so Friday to Monday, I don't see that being a huge fiasco, but I will do whatever.
What Friday are we talking about?
I was asking instead of the 13th, if we
Right.
could bump it to that Friday, the
The
13th, the 10th.
17th?
No,
this
the
coming
10th,
Friday.
this upcoming
We're
Friday.
back tomorrow?
Instead of Monday, yeah, that's all I was asking. But then I was trying to figure out what would be a good compromise, because Lisa's niece is graduating and she's taking that as a vacation day. And then I found out that Jessica's got a tournament, so I couldn't do the morning, couldn't do the evening, so stuck with just Monday, and I'll appear via Zoom.
I do have a CFSGA training, it's a federal programs training, and then my children have a tournament.
Okay.
I apologize.
And you're leaving on the weekend? Or?
I'm leaving Saturday the 11th. Yeah.
Which is why Jessica and I collaborated and talked about what is a different option that would allow the chair to also be in attendance, because it is hard when you're the only one not here and you're on a computer or you're on a phone. It is hard to interact with the rest of the group.
Absolutely, it's awful.
Yeah, which is why I just asked her, like, what's the very latest to get our 10 days in before the June 12th budget hearing? What's the very latest to go to the press, which was Thursday, May 30th, and then backing that up, because Monday the 27th is Memorial Day, I asked her if 2 days was enough. She has the bulk of the documentation built just based on the revenues that are coming from the state. So once she knows the direction the board wants to go with regard to where we're trimming and what the priorities are, she can make those adjustments.
Well, those are some sticky issues. The other thing is, we're only talking about general fund here, and there's a whole bunch more budget that has to be addressed at some point or another, including plant facilities.
I agree.
Which,
And that's why I said, to me, it's a pretty ambitious time crunch for her to get that done in 2 days. I don't know what the alternative is.
Well, we've been given 2 datelines.
Yeah, what were they again? Why couldn't we do that late? What was the
Well, Bob's thinking it's insufficient time to,
No.
to push.
no, 28 days before the start of the fiscal year. June 3rd, okay. Okay, so, that's for them now. So why couldn't we, what was the reasoning you said, when I said we could have it, we could approve it at the hearing if we had it ironed out or whatever by then, but we can't do it that late in June to get it to the state by July 1 because what was the other?
so the date of the budget hearing has to be no more than 28 days prior to the regular July board meeting, so that's exactly.
It's no less than.
I mean, no less than, so
No
that's,
later than.
no, yeah, the actual statutory language
Not
must be
later
held
than.
no later than 28 days prior, so, which is why I think historically we've always had it that way.
Right.
So you are going to approve the budget at the regular board meeting, which is
We
the
would have to do it at
same day as the budget workshop.
the budget hearing.
I mean, the budget hearing, sorry,
Budget hearing.
yes. So it was just a matter of trying to give us some time to work together with everybody in the room.
Additionally, after the budget or a special meeting, to kind of allocate where we would like to move forward with the general fund budget, IBB does need to come back together for negotiations.
That's the other issue, in all honesty.
Right.
Until we've established priorities, it's difficult for us to complete IDB.
Right.
And if we wait until end of the month, that is,
When's the next IBB meeting?
We don't have it scheduled because we were waiting to find out
Right.
when the board's going to meet.
yeah. We really can't move much until the board establishes priorities.
And what was your date, Lisa, the email date that you sent? It was different than what's here.
I'm sorry?
The date, that was the 28th, was that the date?
Yeah, so I basically, Jessica and I came up with 2 options for the board that, the first one was the one that we talked about at the last special meeting, and then the second one, under superintendent CFO recommended timeline, it says Tuesday, May 28th would be the special meeting.
Okay. But if we put everything out till the 28th, then that means IBB doesn't come till after that.
Correct.
We can't do that. Yeah, that was another piece of information I didn't have, was the IBB thing, but I know that they just met. That happened after all this anyways. Okay. Well, I guess given everything that's developed since we started this discussion, everybody's schedules changed and everything changed.
Yeah.
It seems like we're in theory back to the same date, the May 13th.
Seems that way?
Well, yeah, I mean, if we put it off till May 28th that means so in between sometime between May 28th and June, whatever that meeting is, whatever that June date was.
June 12th.
Yeah, IBB would have to, be wrapped up, so that would be the 28th.
So they'd have 2 weeks.
Oh, so it'd be 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that could probably be done.
All we really have left to work on with IDB is the money part.
The money
and we
part,
can't do
yeah.
that until the board makes a decision.
So we would be able to publish something in the paper, just knowing that potentially at the hearing that would have to potentially be amended depending upon IDB negotiations.
Okay. What do you think about the 28th? If we waited till, that would be a whole week, 2 weeks before.
Unfortunately, I don't see where we can get everything done if we don't move on.
Okay.
I appreciate
Well-
the situation, but
Okay.
The budget doesn't have to be published until June 1st, so,
It has to be in by the 30th to be able to be
I
published.
have to
on the
have it in
1st.
2 days before.
oh, well, what was provided to us is,
It says Thursday,
oh,
May 30th. we
Yeah,
have to
I was
submit.
looking at Saturday, June 1st, the budget will be published in the press. So, which would be later than May 22nd. So do you not foresee the possibility of being able to publish the budget so that it doesn't necessarily have to be amended? Or is that inevitable?
If we're not able to complete everything at the May 28th special meeting and come to a conclusion with IDB by the 30th.
Although I guess I would say with the way our budget is this year, the decisions that the board makes about its priorities and the dollar amounts, because we know we have a shortfall. And then we'll have to talk about, do we look for additional dollars in the budget to give steps to staff? And those decisions have to be made in this budget session, which I think kind of defines what we, like, the maximum that we can do
Right.
in IDB. So if we look at it from that perspective, then I don't anticipate that she would have to make an amendment, because she would publish based on what we
Okay.
feel like our best offers.
What I guess I'm trying to get at is if we hold the special meeting on May 13th and then not publish until May 30th, which before with the May 13th, you're publishing on May 22nd.
Yes.
So if we postpone the publishing until there's been more collaboration with the IBB, etc., it may prevent having to amend and all this other sort of stuff.
Yes.
It also
Is all that I was trying to get at.
Sorry, I
Not
misunderstood.
doing
I misunderstood
the
as well. My apologies.
So it'd be kind of a mesh of the
correct.
two
Yeah, to
timelines.
accommodate
That all,
Giving as much time for
That also
each
gives us-
decisions that
Yeah.
right.
it also gives us time if we feel like after the 13th we're not where we need to be.
we could come
we
together
can
and meet
come
again on the
together
28th.
and-
It gives
Or
Or-
just some other time
The
between
next
the
day
13th.
and the next
Yeah,
day and the
exactly.
next day.
and it does give Brooke more time for contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like, we're leaning toward sticking with Monday, May 13th, but changing the publishing day to
Alternate on the 30th.
May 30th.
Yeah.
So this 22nd becomes the 30th. And then everything else just sort of sticks, and then we can get with the IDB.
Yep.
And get that done.
And all dialed in.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, so my motion is to go ahead and keep the first meeting as Monday, May 13th, and change the budget publishing to May
June
30th.
Oh yeah.
Well, June 1st.
Oh, June 1st, okay.
But back into May 30th.
May
Submission on the
30th for
30th.
our timeline. Yeah.
And to clarify, that will be a special meeting that you can take action at.
Yes, yep.
I'm thinking ahead to next year. Let's go ahead and set a
Yes.
calendar in
Yes.
place
That is on my to-do list.
in January,
Yes.
so it's done. Like we can set that when we're doing our annual meeting and have it set in place.
Yep.
Nobody's allowed to take vacations
It's
or,
already on my-
or go anywhere or no traveling, no graduations, nothing.
It's on my
No,
December
it's-
to-do list to put on the January agenda.
Yeah, I agree. That was my frustration looking at it. It's like, we've already know, and I know she's worked on everything, and she was just waiting for certain things. It's
Yeah, and you can't. We
Right.
couldn't move forward until we had numbers from the
Right.
more numbers from the state, and we did what we could. And you know, there's just so many steps that have to be done at a certain time, and you know, we have to take everybody's opinions and thoughts.
And next year, we probably won't need quite as many budget workshop meetings because we spent so much time this year learning the budget all together, where we don't have to go back and relearn it. We can just start with, here's where we think we're gonna end, and what are the priorities.
You have to remember all that.
Sorry, Mom.
Mom, I have to remember it all.
All right, we have a motion on the table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, respectfully, it's 8:14. I would move to table all of the discussion items until the May 28th meeting and move into executive session.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. On that note, I do need a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061B.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call vote.
Chair Thompson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bain?
Yes.
Trustee Grissom?
Yes.
Trustee Quimby?
Yes.
And Trustee Jones?
Yes.
All right, on that note, we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute recess and go into executive session.
And I think
Oh, we gotta unlock the doors.
Sorry.
You're good. I'll grab this one.
No headaches allowed.
things wore off all my Alka-Seltzer cold medicine and everything. I'm like,
Oh, no.
Reality came set in now.
Okay, so we've come out of executive session and I'll entertain any motions at this time.
I would move to approve the superintendent's recommendation for Teacher of the Year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And it's 9:52, meeting adjourned. I thought that was pretty
That was a good loud one.
Usually I'm a very loud.